So if we try to get into your courthouse up here without a mask on, what's going to happen?
They'll probably ask you to leave.
And if we don't leave because we have a right to be there without a mask on?
Do judges decide who has rights before they ever go through due process?
On that piece of property, the statute provides the authority to.
So if I show you the statute and I prove you wrong, would you go arrest Chief Justice Walters for a felony violation?
No.
It's not looking good for you, buddy.
On record. We've been going around to the different counties, and we've been reading all the different statements by the different sheriffs. Some are claiming the mask policy unconstitutional, unlawful, or illegal, which it is. And some are not saying anything, and then others are willfully enforcing it.
So,
where's the discrepancy?
I think that each sheriff is elected to represent their constituents, and I tell my guys, I'm not interested in us enforcing window tint laws, right? What's really important? Do we need to spend our time?
Like felonies like coercion and extortion?
Right. So those things, yeah, that's different. But what I'm getting at is each sheriff can direct their staff on what their priorities are for enforcing different laws.
And you have to follow federal laws as well, correct?
Yeah.
Okay. So if you know of someone committing coercion and extortion in Oregon, and your jurisdiction covers all of Oregon, and 18 U.S.C. 4 says you have to act upon knowing of a felony, what's stopping the action?
Right. So I don't have the authority to enforce federal laws, right?
Well, it's actually a state law.
Right, but state laws, right? Yeah. So
criminal 18 U.S.C. 4 in Oregon law is criminal liability laws. Criminal liability for conduct of another, criminal liability as an individual for corporate conduct, such as having signs on your doors, and criminal liability itself for your own conduct. So if you know of a felony that's being committed within the state, within your jurisdiction, and you don't act on it, you're failing your first duty of a sheriff, which is to arrest and commit all persons for breach of the peace and public offense.
Okay.
So we're wondering is, why do we have 36 sheriffs disagreeing and failing their duties all at the same time?
Well, interpretation of law is is always
statute revision of 1953 says that the statute laws of Oregon are so intended to speak for themselves. There is no interpretation of what they say. They're all written in clear and simple wording for a high school graduate to understand.
Yeah, unfortunately, we have an Oregon Court of Appeals and an Oregon Supreme Court that absolutely boggles our minds every time.
So why don't you perform the arrest then, and then see what they do? And then if they hinder prosecution, why wouldn't you arrest them?
Well,
that's part of your job as the chief executive officer in protecting our constitutional rights.
I think that we have a difference of opinion on how that would play out. Well,
how it plays out that shouldn't be a factor. You should perform your duties, and however it plays out, it should be addressed when it plays out. If you're not doing your duties because you're worried about how it's going to play out, then you're just failing your duties and refusing to do them, which is coercion.
Right. So I think we have a difference of opinion.
It's not just me representing me here. I'm representing thousands of people. We pay you to protect us, and you guys are sitting here saying, no, but it might not turn out all right.
You're right to a point. And
well, that's exactly what it is.
You're right, and I think that some of this is going to be decided, and I hope some of these lawsuits resolve soon.
Well, it should be an arrest and criminal trial, not lawsuit. So if you're under contract with your people, you're refusing to do your duty, your very first duty of a sheriff, 206010, Section 1, arrest and commit all persons is shall. It's not an option.
I think that we have a difference of opinion on what would reach probable cause.
I just told you I can show you the law that incriminates her. So Rule ORS 1.002, the authority she cited for her mask order in the courtrooms, says within all applicable provisions of law. One of those applicable provisions of law is the Civil Rights Act of 1964, or ORS Chapter 659A, which is an obligation of good faith with your employment contract. It's in your department policy manual that you signed saying you know and read and would follow. So standing here saying you're not going to do that is actually perjury, on top of coercion, and extortion by criminal liability for conduct of another. And you're still just gonna. So the obligation of good faith under ORS Chapter 71, which is UCC, Commercial Code, has to do with contract law. The obligation of good faith cannot be waived by variation or agreement, and there can be no rulemaking or legislation which would abrogate your rights. So where does she get this authority from the laws that she cited that say within all applicable provisions of law when they're outside of the applicable provisions of law.
So there's a place that we probably have some agreement.
But I mean, you're the one that signed your contract saying you already agree with everything I'm saying. You're standing here now perjuring your signature on that contract by disagreeing and refusing to do so.
As a sheriff, you're held to a high standard,
So you're actually
sir.
breaching your contract right now
I
already.
understand that.
So if we tried to get into your courthouse up here without a mask on, what's going to happen?
They'll probably ask you to leave.
And if we don't leave because we have a right to be there without a mask on?
Yeah, then I'm sure the presiding judge would say that if you're not wearing a mask, you're technically trespassing.
So-
ask you to be removed for trespassing.
And you would allow him
Well,
to
if
do
you're
that?
there within your rights, then you can't be trespassing. Because trespassing requires you to be there unlawfully. If you're there within your rights, then how are you there unlawfully to be trespassed?
Because I think that the presiding judge, and I think it even came all the way from the.
So wait, do judges decide who has rights before they ever go through due process?
on that piece of property, the statute provides the ability to.
Very
So
careful.
if I show you the statute
So-
and I prove you wrong, would you go arrest Chief Justice Walters for a felony violation?
No.
It's not
You just
looking
confessed
good for
to
you,
coercion
buddy.
on record.
That's fine.
That's fine.
At this point, our conversation isn't real productive.
Oh, it's plenty productive.
It's
on
been
our end.
productive.
We probably actually agree on more things than you realize.
I'm
But
sure
it's
we do,
not being
but when you start to fail your
solicited
duties
right
and
now.
steal our money, we start disagreeing.
That's right.
All right. Well, have a good one. Take care.